Hello everyone, I'm May from Japan. Today is a beautiful day in my life, another happy moment that I can't wait to share with you, the subscribers of this channel. But before I start, please like the video, write comments, and ask questions if you don't understand something or just want to wish each other happiness. Have fun watching. I, just like any other girl, had my own crush, Minato. God, you should have seen him in his prosecutor's uniform. Tall, slender, always the serious type. Minato and I have known each other since childhood. I've always loved him, but he treated me incomprehensibly. Kind of like I was in the friend zone. But on the other hand, sometimes I'd get a nice gift from him in the form of flowers or a teddy bear. My mom was a strict woman. She used to say that I was too soft, and that's why Minato didn't look at me like a woman. That hurt. I may not be as pretty, but I have gorgeous hair. Beautiful and long, and everyone called it a diamond. All the guys were after it, wanting to touch it, but only Minato was allowed to. I didn't want to ruin our friendship, so I just sighed secretly, looking at his pictures online. One day, my mother and I got deep in debt. She owed a businessman money. I don't know exactly why, and the only way out was to marry me off to the last son of the businessman. Popular for his vile character, arrogance, and greed. Of course, when I heard about it, I was, to put it mildly, shocked. But I couldn't do anything about it. In our country, the word elder is equal to the law, especially since I only have one mother. Through my tears, I left the house with my things, where a black-tinted car was waiting for me, and my mother slammed the door behind her without even saying goodbye. Don't think she was a villain. That was just our way out. I was taken far out of town, to a private estate. A servant met me at the entrance, and I went into the bedroom, where they laid out my things, changed my clothes, and prepared me for dinner. The house was gorgeous. Everything was so white and rich. The bathroom alone was the size of my house. I went downstairs an hour later, where the same old businessman was sitting at the table. As I bowed to him, I introduced myself, and he smiled and asked me to sit down at the table. He was polite. He said he wanted me to feel at home, that he was very pleased with me, and hoped that, thanks to me, his silly son would gain some intelligence. I didn't understand why it was me, but it was as if he had read my mind.
You are a good girl, and your family is the same. I knew your father. His pure, open heart, his thoughts and actions were always the same. That's what's missing in the world of businessmen. Sadly, it ruined him, but he left a mark behind. His continuation, in your form. That's why I want you to be part of our family. My son, Yuto, I can't control him. I'm asking you, as my daughter, to help me.
With all due respect, but my marriage to your son, I'm not sure it's going to work out very well. We don't love each other.
Yes, love. It can come at any moment. You know, my girl, not everyone marries for love alone. You do your best, and then we'll see.
I wanted to argue that I'm not an object, not a thing, but a person. And yet my own mother sold me in debt for my gorgeous hair, and he wanted me to take care of his dumb-headed son. But then Yuto walked in. He said hello to his father, looked at me obliquely and gave me that nasty, "Hello, wifey" look, and sat down to eat. He was reprimanded, but didn't seem to care. He ate, exchanged a few sentences with his father, and said he was off to bed. I couldn't even take a bite of food. I wanted to cry. I went to my room and was horrified to find Yuto lying there on my bed. What are you doing here?
What do you mean? This is my room.
The maid must have messed it up. I'll get my things and go.
What? Don't you get it? This is my room, which means it's your room.
We're not married yet.
Ugh, it's only temporary.
He came up to me, forcibly took my hand, and put an engagement ring on it. I took my hand away in pain and resentment.
You leave, and my father will be angry. He'll bring you back. You'll embarrass your mother, and your debt will double.
I'm not a thing they can sell.
I know, as if I wanted you.
I took a pillow and a blanket and made a bed on the floor. I slept there. I couldn't stop thinking about Minato. I wish I could see him and tell him how I felt. Yuto and I fought. I hated him with all my heart. Some nights I wanted to smother him with my pillow. I was glad when he came home late and drunk. Then he'd go right to sleep. One day, I heard his father telling me to hurry up with the wedding. 3 hours later, Yuto's assistant, Haruki, came to our house. He brought home seamstresses, beauticians, hairdressers, and stylists. They all started suggesting images for me to choose as a bride for the wedding, and I was disgusted. This dress, this hair, and this makeup. You don't get to decide for me. Really? It's been 2 hours and you still haven't made up your mind. By the way, they all charge by the hour, so you're wasting our money on nothing. I was measured, sketched, went through a bunch of cosmetic procedures, and got a trial makeover. In the end, I noticed some unsightly clothes from the stylists, snatched them up, put on a wig, and walked outside the house in them, covering myself with a fan. I hadn't been let out for more than a week, and I couldn't live with that nasty guy. I wanted to escape. My escape was a success. I hitchhiked, giving up my last money to get to the city. It was already dark, and I was looking for my way home, but the driver was acting strangely. When the two of us were left alone in the car, he started molesting me. I yelled, and when the car stopped, I ran out into the street and got away, but he ran after me. I was scared out of my mind. I didn't know where to hide, and I wandered into a dead end. The driver walked toward me with a smirk, saying mean things, and I just sat down on the ground and covered my head with my hands. And then I heard muffled noises. It was Yuto. He'd found me and saved me. Yuto brought me home and said he wouldn't tell his father this time, but it would be different the next time. I don't want to marry you.
Do you think I want to marry you? Look at yourself. Watch your mouth.
You're daddy's spoiled brat.
And you look like a ragamuffin from the street. Your hair is pretty. That's all.
I took the ring off and threw it in the far corner of the room. Yuto left, and I was left there crying. And then I went to the window and was about to jump out from the 3rd floor, but he saved me again. Then he said he'd take me to see my mother tomorrow. But my mother wouldn't accept me. She slapped me and told me not to embarrass her. We then drove back in silence. It was good that Yuto didn't ask any questions. I went into the bedroom and lay down on the bed. 30 minutes later, he came in and took my hand and led me somewhere. Where are we going?
Just let's go.
I'm not going to kill you. He took me into the kitchen where there was beautiful ramen with eggs and herbs on the table. Just the way I like it. We had such a good dinner. I didn't know you could cook.
I can do a lot of things, but no one knows.
Why?
I like to surprise.
After dinner, we went out to a huge garden where a small house stood in the distance. We went in there and I saw 2 kittens, a black one and a white one. Yuto told me that no one knew about them. He found them on the street and fostered them, and now they live there. I never thought he would be so kind. The white one's name was Katsu, and I named the black one Toto. That evening, we had a great walk in the garden with the kittens, chatting and laughing. Yuto showed me another amazing side to him. Then I told him I was a good shot because I used to play volleyball. Yuto didn't believe me, and I plucked an apple from a tree. And he asked me to hit his forehead with it. It didn't take me long to do it, and he fell to the ground. I ran out of fear, thinking he was unconscious. Then I leaned over to see if he was breathing, and that's when he suddenly opened his eyes. We looked at each other, frozen, our faces so close together. Then I pulled away.
I thought you wouldn't throw it at me.
I can, and I will, and I always hit the bullseye. After the walk, we went into our room and I suggested we watch a movie. We sat next to each other on the bed, and my fiancé fell asleep right on my shoulder. Then I saw a message on his phone from his dad.
Meet me at work tomorrow. Waiting to talk.
I thought, I wonder what that's about. And after a while, I fell asleep right next to him. In the morning, I woke up in his arms. Yuto opened his eyes and jumped up abruptly. An awkwardness arose. We were both so embarrassed that we didn't even say a word. He then quickly washed his face and went somewhere, forgetting about his phone. An hour later, his father called. I picked up the phone and wanted to tell him the smartphone was at home, but all I heard was,
"Are you really stupid enough to do this? How could you? Come to my work!"
I had never heard the chairman so angry before. The calls and texts continued to come, and I decided to bring the phone to his father at work. But when I ran to the office, Yuto was already there. His father was yelling that he was stupid for giving money to treat children with cancer when he could have invested it in company stock.
Father, I'd rather give it to the children than to your subordinates, who will steal it all. How dare you? What do you know about business? You can't even get married. If you don't get married in 5 days, I'll strip you of your fortune. Understand? It's all your mother's fault. She spoiled you too much. Don't you dare talk about her.
The chairman was furious. He went towards the exit, and I hid behind the wall. Yuto called me from the office phone, and we arranged to meet at a cafe. I stealthily walked out of the building and drove there, pretending I saw nothing. Yuto looked upset. I gave him his phone and took his hand, and he smiled and offered to take me for a ride around town. It was fun. We had so much fun chatting and eating ice cream, and then we met Minato in the park. The meeting was so awkward. I had once told Yuto in anger that I was in love with Minato, and surprisingly, my fiancé said I should go, and whispered that I should go home and be with him. But how? His father will take everything away from him. My mind spun. I wanted to talk, but Yuto just left, and Minato took me back to my mother's house. My mother said that the debt was forgiven, and I could be free. But why? Would he give up like that? I couldn't leave everything as it was, and went to Minato's house in the morning to ask him to take me to see Yuto. But I noticed a familiar face at the door of his house. It was Haruka, Yuto's assistant. What was he doing? What was he handing over? An envelope with money in it? These two were up to something.
He'll sign a contract with a bunch of irregularities in 2 hours. That's when you break in with a prosecutor's inspection. He and my father are disagreeing. We can shake out more money,
Haruki said. I was horrified at what I heard. I took a cab, but the two of them spotted me and followed me all the way there. I got a good cab driver, and it was a quick ride to the chairman's office, and I caught the elevator. The two of them ran up the stairs to the 10th floor. I burst into Yuto and his father's office, and they were stunned by what they saw. "Don't sign anything!" I shouted, and I managed to show them a video of Minato and Haruki. The guards wanted to take me away, but Yuto told them to stop. Haruki rushed in and pulled out his gun, so I took off my shoes and threw them both in their direction, hitting one and the other in the eye. Then the guards tied them up. When things calmed down, the chairman thanked me and left to take care of business. Yuto and I just sat outside on a bench, and he brought me water and asked why I came back. I couldn't find the right words. I just kissed him and showed him the ring on my finger. I'd put it back on. I think I fell in love.